Hello my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and tonight I've got another book talk video to share with you guys. And tonight we are talking about Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. I've heard so many people talking about this over the past year or two, and it was on my TBR for so long. But what finally made me pick it up was earlier this week. If you might have seen, I posted a spoiler-free review for a book that comes out next month called Eat the Ones You Love. And it was about a plant, quite literally. Anyway, and then this one, I looked at the cover and I was like, now's the time to read this one. And wow. This was a wild ride. First of all, this is a book talk, so we'll do it how we normally do. I'll give you the brief setup, some general thoughts, and then I'll give you a warning before we move into spoilers. So if you've already read it, or if you just want to hear me talk about it, you can. And if you don't want spoilers, you can skedaddle. So basically, this is the story of a woman named Rosemary, though she goes by the name Ro. She's recently moved to a college town because she's got a job as an assistant professor at the university in this town. And she's recently gone through a breakup. She was with a man named Eric for a really long time, and she thought they were going to get married. But then she found out that he had been cheating on her, so she ended it and moved. So now she's in this town where she doesn't really know anyone. She's been there for 6 months, and she's ready to start exploring the area and try to make this her new home. So one Saturday morning, she decides to go to the local farmer's market. And while she's there, she kind of ends up in the stall for this woman who she's selling baked goods and plants and homemade soaps and candles. And when Ro goes into this stall and she looks at this woman, she's instantly taken by her. She's like, this is the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life. And she's instantly intrigued, especially once she starts talking to this woman. She's just instantly taken. So basically, we have this budding relationship between these two women. And as time goes by, things take a really dark turn. And that's basically all I can tell you about the premise without telling you too much, because it's very short. Like I said, it's like 200, just a touch over 200 pages, at least the format I was reading it was. I read it on my Kindle, and it's a quick read, and it kind of goes along until the last 20% of the book, and then things kick off in a absolutely wild way. So, if you don't want any spoilers, here's the time to click away. Well, not quite yet. Let me just tell you first. A lot of the build-up kind of reads like a bit of a mystery, a bit of a thriller, a bit of a love story as these two are falling in love. And then the last 20%, it just goes completely wild. So, if you are, I can't even tell you. I don't even know what to tell you to avoid. I don't want to be if you don't like this or this or this, avoid it, because those will be spoilers, and I don't want to do that. But I will tell you, 80% of the book reads kind of like a domestic thriller, maybe, when you know something's off and you're trying to piece together what that might be, and then it goes off the rails in a really dark kind of way. But I loved it. I ate it up. So there you go. That's all I'll say. So get on out. Beat it, bozo. Anyway, so Rosemary and Ash is this other woman's name. They're very taken with each other. It kind of becomes a mutual obsession, although Rose seems to be more obsessed. And as time goes by, even after the first meeting, Ash says to her, come back next week and tell me how your plant's doing, because first Rosemary buys a plant, and then she keeps coming back for cupcakes, and she keeps coming with updates for how the plant is doing, because she's like, I kill plants. And Ash is like, nah, you won't kill this one. It's a snake plant, right? So she's like, these thrive on neglect. You'll be just fine. So Ro follows instructions, comes back updates her. Eventually she's like, I should get a second plant. And Ash is like, well, I don't have any of these in stock, but why don't you come to my house tonight and I can show you around my greenhouse. And so Ro goes, and they begin to form a relationship. And for Ro, this is her first time in a relationship with a woman. Up until now, she had dated exclusively men. And so she's really taken with this idea of like discovering this part of herself. But instantly, this first meeting, it kind of goes awry, because at one point, Ro goes in to use the washroom, and she's a little nosy and she's a little paranoid after things ended with her ex so badly, with him cheating, that like she's kind of got her back up. And so she starts to kind of snoop around the house. And as she's getting ready to open this one door across from the bathroom, Ash catches her. And Ash is pissed. And she's like, how dare you come in my house and start rooting around? How dare you? And Ash is like, I'm sorry. And she basically lays it all bare for Ash. And she's like, listen, I have trust issues from a past relationship, and I let that get the best of me, and I apologize, and I won't do it again. And Ash is kind of impressed with the way that Ro is able to communicate herself so clearly and so effectively. And she's like, okay, you know what? Okay, I forgive you. Let's move on. So in the book is a lot of them getting to know each other and like learning about each other, but like as it goes on, from Ro's point of view, you're like, there's something up with Ash. Like, she is weird. Ro doesn't even know her last name at this point. And they have this weird interaction where they go on this date where it's a hike, and they meet this man. Well, they don't meet him. They're having a private moment, and they look and see that this creep is in the trees filming them. And Ro is like, oh no, that's terrible. But Ash like loses her mind, and she starts chasing him. And Ro is like, oh my God, like that scared me. And Ash is like, I'm sorry, but like, he's a creep, who cares? So like, okay, so they decide to meet up back at Ash's house later. And so Ro goes home, but Ash stays behind. And it's like, well, that's a little weird. And so eventually she goes out later that night, and they have a lovely time. They have a lovely time. But again, as time is going on, things are feeling weird, and things don't make any sense. And like later, days or weeks later, Ro goes back to that park, and she sees that guy. Because when Ash finally got up to that guy, she pushes him to the ground. She takes his phone, deletes the videos, throws the phone in the lake, takes his car keys and throws those in the lake. So when Ro goes back, she sees his car still there. And she's like, well, that's weird that he never came back for his car. And she knows it's still there, not there again, because there's stickers and signs all over it that says, like, if you don't come and get this, we're going to tow it soon. So she's like, oh, it's been here the whole time. So as things are going on and they're trying to establish each other's boundaries, and Ro's trying to respect them as much as she can, but like they're so strict and they're so weird that eventually one time Ash invites her to come to the farmer's market to see her, because she has, like I said, so many strict rules. And she's like, from Wednesday to Sunday, I'm busy. Like, don't come here. Don't call me. I'm working. I'm making the cupcakes. I'm making the candles. I'm making the soaps. So she's like, okay. So she's like, come to the farmer's market and see me on Saturday. And so Ro shows up, and she's so excited to see Ash. And like, she comes running in, and she's like, oh, hi. But Ash had been dealing with a customer, and she's really upset with Ro for interrupting her. But like, a little too upset, you know what I mean? Like, she could have just been like, hi, like, I'll talk to you in a minute. But she gets very upset, and that causes a rift. And like, eventually Ro leaves, and they don't speak for days. And finally Ash calls her, and she's like, I'm sorry. I am sorry. Please come here. So they go, they reconnect. Rose spends the night. Through the night, there's a huge storm, and the power goes off. And Ash, in her sleep, she's kind of like, I'll fix it tomorrow. It's just a breaker. Breaker's just gone out. And Rose's like, okay, but she's so warm and she can't sleep. So eventually she's like, I'm gonna go find that breaker and I'm gonna turn it. Now, can you guess where that breaker is found? At the bottom of the stairs of that door that she's not supposed to open, because she finally opens it, the staircase. And she sees the breaker. She's like, great. She goes down. She flicks the switches. Awesome. She's getting ready to come back upstairs, but she notices 2 doors to either side of her. And while in her heart, she wants to respect Ash's boundaries, she's also feeling like they've made some progress after the big fight. Like, Ash understands that her boundaries are crazy. So she's like, okay, she opens one door, and inside of that door is like a slaughterhouse. And there's a man strapped to a table. And it's the man from the park. And his legs are missing, but he's still alive. He's hooked up to IVs and he is alive. And he is very scared. And he's trying to scream, but of course he's gagged. And she's like, oh my God. It all starts to like snap into place what she's dealing with. So she's like, oh my God. So she goes to the other room, the other one. She opens that. That's this like beautiful, pristine soap making room, candle making room. And then she puts it all together. Like, she's using, like, in her cupcakes, the lard from people. In her soap, she's using the fat from people. And she's like, oh my God. Then she hears Ash is awake and she's like calling out to her. And she's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So she tries to hide. Ash comes down. She looks around. Nope, not down there. She goes back upstairs calling out to Ro. Ro's like, oh my God. So finally she finds a window, okay? It's still stormy outside. She finds a window. She puts a box. She climbs up on it. She's like, I'm going to get out. I'm going to get out this way. As she's trying to get out the window, which she is struggling mightily with, she's about to push herself out. And there's Ash, of course, standing right there. And she takes her foot and she pushes her back in with it. So then now Ro's laying on the floor. Ash comes down. And she's like, this wasn't supposed to happen. You were supposed to obey me, and then we could have had a really great relationship. And Ro, of course, is trying to save her own life. So she's like, listen, it's fine. It's fine. I don't care. I don't care what you do down here. We're good. But of course, Ash isn't buying it. So she's like, you know what you're going to do, actually, is you're going to go kill that guy. And then we both have a secret. And then we can talk about it. So she does. She goes. She doesn't know what else to do. This guy's freaking out. But she's like, she's trying desperately to save herself. So she does. And then we flash forward however long. And Ro is sitting out on the front porch at Ash's house. And she's like, well, I don't have to go to work anymore. So I'm just hanging out here. And like, it gets so crazy. We learn that Ro had written a poem and she wanted to have it published anonymously in a magazine. And Ash let her do that. So when she's out sitting on the porch this morning having breakfast, the magazine is sitting under the plate. And she opens it up and her poem's in there. And then Ash comes out and she's like, oh, you found it. You found the magazine. Great. You know, it's funny. When you first wrote the poem and you wanted to publish it, and I read it a few times and I thought it was great. I didn't notice that you put secret message in the last letter of every line. And Ro's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then Ash gives her a push. And we learn a push from her wheelchair. And we learn that Ro's legs have also been cut off. And then Ash kind of pounces on her and she's like, you can't write if you don't have hands. And then Ro's like, I thought you loved my way with words. And she's like, yeah, well, you still have a tongue, so you can just speak those words to me instead of writing them down. How about that? And that's kind of where it ends. It was wild. I had a great time, honestly. I loved the decadent meeting and romancing, and then once it took that shift, I loved it. It was great. I know Delilah S. Dawson has a bunch of other, I think there's one called Guillotine that I've heard people talking about that they really liked as well. So I look forward to checking that one out soon. But this just seemed like the perfect time to read Bloom after Eat the Ones You Love. And what I also love about this book is, look at this cover. This cover tells you exactly what the book's about. And I love that. I love that it's kind of just put out there for you. And then once you finish it, you're like, I see what you did there. So there you go, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm headed to bed now. It is late. I had to finish this book tonight so I could start the book club selection. So off to bed now. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a great weekend, and I will see you again really soon with a reading vlog. Bye.